Let's chop and prop my slightly sad Ficus Elastica. It is finally spring here in Australia, which means I'm getting out onto my balcony more and checking out my plants. And whilst most of my plants are absolutely fine, this poor rubber plant has obviously been keeping the snail population alive throughout winter. Before you say these plants can't live outside, look at all the other ones on my balcony, which are absolutely fine. Moving right on, let me show you how to propagate this plant and also the best way to bring it back from the brink of death. The first thing I do for any rescue is remove the most damaged leaves. These are not going to repair themselves, so there's no point keeping them on. And new branches will grow where I am snipping off each of these leaves. So although you may think I have a heavy pruning hand and she looks a bit sad without all these leaves, I promise she is going to come back better than ever. I'm also taking a cutting from each stem, which I'm going to water propagate. I've done this because I think it looks a little bit silly only having foliage at the top of the plant. I have also had a lot of success propagating the Ficus lyrata, and I'm going to use the same method here. I wasn't sure how much of the stem I was going to cut back, but I've left it a little bit longer for now to see how much she branches out. As for the tiny snail, I've popped her on my plant shelf where she can happily devour this strawberry plant. Back to the rubber plant though, you can see that she does look a little sad with these two large stems without much foliage, but you can also see that throughout her snail ordeal she did keep pushing out new growth at the bottom, which is a really good sign of the overall health of the plant. As well as doing a chop and prop, I'm also adding new soil to the top of this plant. She doesn't need a repot, but you do not want this much of your plant's roots exposed. This is fairly normal for plants which are outside in the elements with rain and wind. Adding a nutrient-rich soil to the top is totally fine if you're not ready to repot your plant. For the cuttings, I let the stems dry overnight so that they don't rot. I'm using amber glass here because this helps to prevent algae growth. You want to keep your cuttings in a warm and fairly humid environment. I checked back in on them a week later and you can see they've already got roots forming. These small popcorn growths are what will turn into roots. As it's spring, regrowth is happening fairly quickly and I should have roots like this in no time. Here is a Ficus lyrata that I've been growing for a few months now. You can see that there is first and secondary roots, so she's ready to go into soil, but I'm keeping her hydro a little longer. As these are both ficus plants, my rubber plant should do the same. For the mother plant, after just a week, you can see there's already new growth forming. I did end up pulling off this leaf as well because she just looks silly up there on her own. 10 days later, I can really see new branches starting to form. You can see that these are growing where there was previously a leaf. This is why I had no concerns about chopping them off. On one of the stems you can see there is a lot of branching happening all the way up to the top. On this second stem, however, there's only growth points until about halfway up. If this doesn't change in the next week, I'm going to cut her back even more, so stay tuned for that.